I want to play another question that was submitted from a woman named Megan so that I can start to show you that you're not the only one whose self-doubt is the problem.
My name is Megan, and I'm from Tampa, Florida. Long story short, I've always wanted to move out of my hometown. And ever since I graduated college, I've tried to find an excuse to move. I'm in my third job in my career, love it. But I'm just like, I never pursued that moving out of my hometown. And there's always been this itch. And I'm 32, I'm single, I have no kids, and I'm like, my lease is about to end. So I'm like, is now the time? But all those fears just keep popping in, which are a lot of, limiting beliefs that I have. So my parents always kind of told me, you need money to move. If you don't have a bunch of money saved, then you shouldn't be going anywhere. They never moved out of Tampa. So they were like, your family's here. Why would you want to leave your family? And kind of like guilt tripped me a little bit. So I kind of shut down the conversation, and I basically just don't know what to do. And I feel stuck, but I feel like I need to do it, but I don't have a reason to other than I want to. So how do I get past feeling stuck and too afraid? And I feel like I'm just always looking for excuses of why I shouldn't. My biggest fear is just getting there and then being like, why did I do this? I'm alone. I have no family or friends here. Who knows when my family or friends are going to visit me, even if they will. Is this going to cost me a lot of money? And now I put myself in like a bad financial situation. What if I lose my job and I'm in a new city? What if I hate it? So Mel, how do I get started? What is the first step I should take? And what is the right way of going about doing this?
Oh my God. Yeah. First of all, can we just agree? We love Megan. Don't you just love how honest she is? How she's just laying it all out there. And you know what else I love about her? She is every single one of us. Because once you lock on to something that you, quote, have an itch. And by the way, that's the only reason you need. If you want to do something, if you have a desire to do it, if you have that itch, that pull, that's your reason. You don't need any other justification other than you get to want things. You get to try things. And so I just love her because in sharing so much about how she's struggling internally, and you can hear that, can't you? You can hear how much she wants to do this. And yet, there is that conflict inside of her. And so I want to unpack this layer by layer for you, because here's the thing. It's very easy for me on the outside to put my hands on my hip and to look at Megan with a big smile and say, honey, you are not getting any older. Get your ass out of Tampa and move. What if it all works out? Stop worrying about it. And by the way, Tampa's waiting for you in case you hate it. So you can reverse the decision. But you got to start taking some risks. Like, I could tell her this all day long, but what really moves the needle in your life is when you can coach yourself. When you can shut down the conversation inside your own mind. Because the only thing that is holding Megan back from pursuing something she's been thinking about for years is the conversation she's having with herself. And so how do you shut down the conversation? The answer, believe it or not, is manifesting. Wait, what? Mel? Hold on a second. Mel Robbins, did you just say all I have to do is manifest? If I think about moving, magically it'll happen? No, that's not what I said. You see, you don't understand what manifesting is. Nobody does. I didn't for decades. Manifesting is not just imagining something or wishing or wanting something to happen. That's what Megan's been doing. She's been thinking about it. She's been wishing it would happen. She's been wanting it to happen. Has that made her move? No. That's not manifesting, everybody. Manifesting is intentionally training your brain and your nervous system to believe in something that hasn't happened yet. That's what manifesting is. Manifesting is a power tool. It's backed by neuroscience. It is backed by years of research. And when used properly, it helps you achieve your goals because it helps you prepare to do the work. I use science-backed manifesting tools every single day to shut down the negative conversations in my life and to live a big life and to take big risks. And dude, Olympic athletes use manifesting. And we're going to get into how Olympic athletes and the world's leading, business leaders and successful people everywhere use it. But I'm telling you right now, the way you shut down your internal conversation that is holding you back is manifesting. And I'm not only going to give you the definition of what manifesting is and what it isn't, but I'm going to walk you through 4 steps backed by neuroscience on how you're going to use manifesting properly as a brain reprogramming tool. That's what we're going to do here today. And I'm also, as I walk you through these steps, you're going to learn the 4 mistakes that absolutely everybody makes when it comes to the how and when it comes to trying to manifest. Jessica, I'm sure, is making this mistake. Megan makes this mistake. I've been making this mistake for years until I understood the science. And so, as I do this, I want to turn the spotlight on you for a second because I'm going to continue talking about Megan. And I'm going to learn a lot about manifesting and how to use science to rewire your mind. But what is something that you feel the itch to do, that you've been thinking about, that you're the one shutting down? Here's a way that you could really get honest with yourself. Let's just say that Mel Robbins was going to take a sabbatical from hosting the Mel Robbins podcast. And let's say I was going to move into your house. And you and I were going to be surgically joined at the hip for a year. And you were going to have to deal with me being by your side and in your ear day by day. I'd be there as you woke up. I'd be there as you go to sleep. I can sense that itch because I'm connected to your hip. What is it knowing that I would be in your life, annoying as hell, pushing you through your fears? What would you take on that you're not taking on right now? What dream would you pursue? If I'm your big O-line, your offensive lineman in football, I'm the one that's going to block and tackle for you. I'm the one that's going to clear the path. I'll handle your frickin' parents. I'm going to find the apartment. I'll push you out of your comfort zone. We got this because I'm going to be by your side. What is that thing, that itch, that dream? Because I want you to be selfish as you listen to this. And so hold on to that as I describe how manifesting is one of the first things you have to learn how to do to get started on making this a reality. So what is manifesting? Manifesting is mentally training for getting what you want. That's all that it is. It is part of the toolkit that successful people around the world use. Let me tell you what manifesting is not. Manifesting is not thinking thoughts and then hoping they come true. That is what people do on their 7th birthday. And they blow out the candles. That is not what we are doing here. Manifesting is based in neuroscience. It is a tool that you are going to use precisely, intentionally, systematically, with purpose. Because you use manifesting to rewire your mind and your body and your spirit to help you do the work to achieve your dreams. When you use manifesting properly, you are removing the mental obstacles of self-doubt, resistance, fear, perfectionism, feeling overwhelmed, other people's expectations, all that stuff that is holding you in place right now, that makes you spin in circles. Manifesting clears that shit out, and it programs, using science, a completely different way of thinking and feeling about the things that you want to create in your life. And when you manifest properly, it's almost like the pregame training that you do before the big game. It prepares you to take action. It boosts your confidence. It gets you ready to do that thing. So you and I are going to walk step by step through how to do this, but I just want you for this moment, I want you to embrace the definition that this is not wishing. This is not the law of attraction. This is based in science and neuroscience. This is about reprogramming your mind instead of letting your fears run your life. I know what you're thinking. Okay, Mel, what the hell does that mean? Don't you worry. We're going to go step by step through this, and I'm going to keep on teeing up the mistakes that you're making, because everybody makes the same mistakes. I made the same mistakes too. And I'm going to show you the 4 things you need to do instead so you can leverage the science to create the life that you want. So step 1 of manifesting properly according to research and science. First, you have to tell the truth. You have to declare what you want. Period. This does not work if you're lying to yourself. This does not work if you're fuzzy about what you want. And so Megan already did step 1. She said, I want to move. She even told us that she'd been wanting to do this for a while. And the only thing that's been holding her back is all that negative programming in her mind. So now let's turn to you. Tell me the truth. What's something that you want? And don't be scared to say it out loud. Don't worry, I'm not moving in with you. But you have to tell the truth. That thing that you have an itch to do. That's what I'm talking about. And if you are so shut down that you don't even know what you would want to manifest, let's do the exercise that I have shared multiple times on the Mel Robbins podcast. Every single morning as part of your morning routine, I want you to just take out a piece of paper and write down 5 things that you want. And every morning as you do this, as you give yourself permission to want things, you're training your mind. You're getting in touch with your dreams and your goals. And if you're having trouble connecting with this, I have a free cheat sheet for you. Just go to melrobbins.com/dreambig. I walk you through it. You can download it for free. And you can also listen to the episode we just did on dreams. It's the one we released right before this one. But you have to be honest. You want to know why? Because you're training your brain, and your brain knows when you're bullshitting, especially when you're bullshitting yourself. You cannot half-ass this stuff. Just listen to this question from Rochelle.
My name is Rochelle. I am from Ontario, Canada, a small town north of Toronto. So for 25 years, I've had a head full of ideas. I've had half-assed projects and lots of plans. I chose always wishing over doing. Many of my blocks were due to fear, many just basic survival. The idea of goal setting, it really fires me up. The idea of remembering to revisit those goals, that freaks me out. I just think of all the things that I should have done and want to do still that I've thought about over the last 25 years. What do you have a vision board for? That seems like, what are you, a child?
I love you guys so much. What do you have a vision board for? What are you, a child? Rochelle, okay. So first of all, we love Rochelle. We love everybody. And what I love about her is she's admitting to you that she's been thinking about things that she's wanted for 25 years. And she's never getting past the thinking part. Why? Well, because again, the overwhelm, the self-doubt, all of the disorganization, it's stopping her. That's where manifesting comes in. And she asked the question, vision boards, what the hell, am I a child? Let me tell you why vision boards can be important with one huge caveat based on science. Vision boards are important because when you take the time to create a vision board, which is basically bringing your dream or your goal to life by creating a collage of images, what you're doing is you are grabbing that dream or that goal that typically we bounce around in the back of our minds in private. You're pulling it out of your mind and you are grounding it in reality. And one of the reasons why this can be so powerful is because it signals to your brain that this is really important to you. We've talked in previous episodes about the Zeigarnik effect. It creates this kind of to-do list in your mind. The other reason why it's important is because when you put a vision board in a place where you can see it, it keeps these goals and dreams front and center, which is really important. But here's the problem. Everybody puts the wrong shit on their vision boards. You've been sold a bill of goods. You have been told that if you simply create a collage of some beach house or your dream body or $1 million in the bank or a Maserati, that suddenly the universe is going to hand you those things. That's not how that works. What research shows is exactly what Rochelle is talking about. If all you ever do is think about the big thing, you think about the end goal, the beach house, the Maserati, the thing that's like 10 years from now, and then you create this beautiful collage of this amazing thing that you want, that's a huge mistake. And see, everybody makes this mistake. If you look at anybody's vision board, you know what's on it? It's beach houses and $1 million and a Maserati and the finishing line at the New York City Marathon and all the things that you hope and dream for. And the reason why that's a huge mistake is that if the only thing that is on your vision board is the thing that's going to take you 10 years to get done, as you sit here in your studio apartment or in the spare bedroom of your parents' house at a desk in the corner and you stare at a $10 million beach house, oh my God, that is going to feel so far away. It's going to feel like you might as well move to Mars, for crying out loud. Instead of that vision board keeping your dreams front and center, that vision board is rubbing them in your face. It's not motivating at all. Why? Because you start to become present day in and day out to how far away you are from that dream of yours. And that starts to make you feel less motivated. It doesn't surprise me at all that Rochelle has been thinking about all kinds of things for 25 years, and yet she can't get started. And the reason why is because she is making the mistake of visualizing the end. Manifesting is not just hoping and wishing, remember, for that beach house? Manifesting is training your mind, body, and spirit to do the work to make that beach house a reality. And step 2 to manifesting according to neuroscience. Visualize the steps along the way. This is research from UCLA. In order to make manifesting work for you according to science, don't visualize the end. Visualize the steps and the actions that you're going to take to get there. So what does that mean? That means all that hard and annoying and tedious stuff that you got to do that you don't feel like doing in order to make that thing a reality, that's what you're going to put on the vision board. That's what you're going to visualize. You see, according to the research from UCLA, brain scans show that when you visualize yourself performing an action, you stimulate the same brain region that you're using when you actually perform that action. So manifesting properly, according to science, means you are socializing your mind to take action. Now, what does socializing your mind mean? Because that's the language they used in the study. It means you're training your mind to take the action. By sitting there and mentally rehearsing this, you are telling your mind, you're stimulating the part of the brain that actually is going to take the action. This taps into something called procedural memory, and it helps you lock in the actions you need to take as a new habit. See, procedural memory is part of your long-term memory. It's like writing with your hands or pouring a glass of water. All those actions and habits, they're all stored in your procedural memory. Your procedural memory has all the information that you need in order to perform things like brushing your teeth or walking and talking. And when those things get rehearsed over and over and over again, guess what? They become encoded. They become automatic. The more you think about the steps you need to take and you start to visualize them, the stronger the connections become. And this isn't just like common sense. What happens when you visualize this way is that connections are being made between gaps in neurons. They're passing signals back and forth. And so before you even take the actions, you are now socializing your brain to get ready to do it. You're preparing. It's super cool. So let's just start with step 1, manifesting according to science. You got to claim what you want and tell the truth. So let's say that step 1, I want to train for and I want to complete the New York City Marathon. That is a bucket list item for me. And in fact, that was a bucket list item for me, and it's something that I've done, and you should do it too. It's amazing. And so yes, you're going to wake up every day and you're going to write that dream down. But to achieve it, please do not spend any time visualizing crossing the finish line. Please do not spend any time thinking about the roaring applause of the crowd as your name gets announced. Instead, what are you going to do? You're going to use science because you're smart. You're going to visualize yourself lacing up your running shoes when it's 10 degrees outside. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to picture what it feels like to be out there on a training run alone. It's mile 13. You're on your own and your freaking earbuds just ran out of batteries and you're 6 miles from your house. And as you close your eyes and you picture that annoying and irritating moment, I want you to feel in your body the sensation of that moment. And I want you to feel in your body another one. How about this moment? It's 5 a.m. Your alarm goes off. You're exhausted. You look out the window and you see it's pouring rain and it's a Saturday and you said you do a training run. And I want you to see yourself dragging yourself out of bed, pulling on your jacket even though you don't feel like it, and walking out that door. And I want you to feel yourself starting to run in the rain, and it's 5:10 in the morning. That's how you manifest. Because here's the thing. That's what you're going to have to do in order to achieve your goal. And more importantly, 5 months from now, when you've registered for that race and that alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and you roll over in real life and you look out the window and it's pouring, you will have rehearsed this moment. So your brain and your nervous system and your body is going to be ready for it. You're going to roll out of bed because you've already been in this moment. You already have seen yourself there. You've already felt the resistance. You not only know exactly how this goes, you've rehearsed it in your mind, and you've now rewired your brain to be ready for it. That's why you can't half-ass this. You got to be dead serious about visualizing the steps you need to take. And so now that you got step 1, which is tell the truth about what you want. Get very clear about it. Step 2 is stop focusing on the end and start focusing on the irritating crap you're going to have to do day in, day out to march toward it. Now we're going to go from the kindergarten manifesting according to neuroscience to Olympic level manifesting. Are you ready? I'm ready. Because step 3 to properly manifest according to science, you got to feel that stuff in your body. I mean, really feel it. You got to feel what it's like to work for that dream. Now, this isn't just Mel Robbins, and this is not even neuroscientists anymore. We're now bringing in the Olympic athletes and all of their team of psychologists because they take manifesting to an even deeper level. When you're on the Olympic team, you call this imagery because it goes way beyond sort of the visualization. An Olympic aerial skier said, you have to smell it, you have to hear it, you have to feel it, you have to feel everything. And so that means as you are closing your eyes and as you are visualizing yourself doing the work, and for an Olympic skier, that means before you even get on that slope, you are imagining every twist, every turn, every bump, every jump. You are going over and over and over and over again, every twist and every turn. Because remember, according to the research at UCLA, your brain doesn't know the difference between something that happened to you for real and the things that you imagine happening to you. So you're warming yourself up to exactly what you'll feel as you're taking action. There's a huge article about this in the New York Times, and in it, bobsledder Lyndon Rush, who's an Olympic medalist, said, I've tried to keep the track in my mind throughout the year, he said. I'll be in the shower brushing my teeth. It just takes a minute. So I do the whole track, or sometimes just the corners that are more technical. You try to keep it fresh in your head, so when you do get there, you're not just starting at square one, and it's amazing how much you can do in your own mind. And in fact, one of the things that psychologists use this for with our Olympic team is helping athletes deal with the anxiety and resistance that comes up when they're about to go back into racing after an injury. And so this sort of imagery, this deep manifesting where you feel it. So what does that mean? You got to smell the air. You got to feel the wind. You got to really put yourself at the scene. When I was a young trial lawyer, I used to work for the Legal Aid Society as a criminal defense attorney. And when I was being trained to do trial work, they used to say, when you're talking to a jury, you have to put people at the scene. You've got to describe something in a way that they could almost see, taste, or smell it. And that's what you need to do. And so here's what I want to do. I want to do this with you right now. And so we're going to use our friend Megan. Remember, she's the one that wants to move from Tampa. And I want to play a part of her clip where she talks about her fears. And as you're listening to our friend Megan, I want you to see what sensations come up in your body as you are listening to her describe all the resistance and fears that she has about this thing that she wants to do.
My biggest fear is just getting there and then being like, why did I do this? I'm alone. I have no family or friends here. Who knows when my family or friends are going to visit me, even if they will. Is this going to cost me a lot of money? And now I put myself in like a bad financial situation. What if I lose my job and I'm in a new city? What if I hate it?
You want to know what Megan's doing? She's manifesting. She is letting her fears rehearse the worst case scenario. She has trained her brain and her nervous system to be terrified of this move. She has a visualization, all right, that it's not going to work, that her parents are going to be mad, that it's a huge mistake, that she's going to lose her job, that no wonder she's not doing it. She's using manifesting in the exact opposite way. She is systematically, through her excuses and her fears and her parents' stuff, she is training her own mind to work against her. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like that. You could feel, couldn't you? When she said, what if I get there and I'm alone? What if I get there and it's the worst decision? I bet you felt your chest seize a little bit. When she said, what if I regret it? I bet you felt yourself shrink a little bit. See, her excuses have trained her mind and body to resist taking the action. You do the same thing. Every time you look at the thing that you want, that itch that you have, the dream that you have, the goal that you have, and you're like, but this, but that, but what about the other person? But you're visualizing all the negative. And this is why you're stopped. And so instead of mentally rehearsing your deepest fears, let's just flip this. Try visualizing it being great. I mean, instead of going, what if it doesn't work? What if it all works out? What if this is the best decision I've ever made in my entire life? Visualize saying goodbye to your parents and packing the U-Haul. Visualize yourself alone in the apartment. Go to that really scary moment where you're there alone and you feel yourself getting anxious. But then visualize yourself putting your shoes on, leaving the house, going to that event you signed up, even though you didn't feel like it, and bumping into somebody and making a new friend. Visualize your mom calling and saying, I miss you. I wish you have it. And as you look out at the mountains or the oceans or this whole new city that you live in, feel the pride inside yourself that you took the risk and that you're going to see her next month when you go home. And in a weird way, visualize and feel how this distance and you growing up has made your relationship stronger. Visualize that moment where you lose your job and going, but that's okay. I didn't like that job anyway. And I've met so many people here that now I'm networking and I've just landed something new. Visualize yourself winning. So I think you're getting this. I know you're getting this. Let me just recap because nobody gets left behind on the Mel Robbins podcast. Step 1, tell the truth. Your brain knows BS and we need the truth from you. What do you actually want? Step 2, you're going to use neuroscience, which means you're going to visualize and feel in your body all the little things you have to do, the annoying, the irritating. I want you to see it, to smell it. I want you to see yourself falling down or being scared and then picking yourself back up. And feel the pride. Push through the resistance. There you are doing it. Rehearse it in your mind over and over and over. And what you're really doing is you are decoding all the resistance that your fears put in. And you are encoding and rewiring a whole new track, a tape in your mind that shows you doing the work and making it happen. And this is what Olympic athletes do. This is what Mel Robbins does. This is what successful people in business do. And this is what you're going to be doing now. And so now I want to teach you something else, because I think what's going to happen is that you're going to get all excited and you're going to identify and tell the truth about what you want. And you're going to sit down and you're going to go to start visualizing the steps. And then something interesting is going to happen. You might find that something weird happens, because this is what happened to Mara, and it's extremely common. So listen to this question.
Hey, Mel. My name's Mara. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I have a question for you. I was just curious, how does one tackle overcoming imposter syndrome while manifesting? So how can I take the steps to work on a business that I'm passionate about, interior design with absolutely no experience other than my own home, and planning my own parties and gifting during the seasons and birthdays? When I see these types of businesses online, they really, really inspire me to create. But the thought of me doing it myself is so scary.
Okay, I love this question. This is so juicy and great. And I just am so happy, Mara, that you asked this. So first of all, let's just stop saying imposter syndrome, okay, everybody? Because when you're new to something, you're a student. That's it. You're a beginner. That's it. You're not an imposter. You're not faking anything. You're actually figuring it out. It's part of the process. And so stop saying you have imposter syndrome, because all you do is you have a dream and you're going to begin to chip away at it. That's what we're doing here. So that's number one. Number two, this is really common. And the reason why it's really common is because your fear is so big and your self-doubt is so big, and you've never done this thing before. And you can tell based on the fact that, Mara was kind of laughing. She's like, oh my God, I kind of love this thing. And so she's diminishing how big of a dream this is. And a lot of us do that. We kind of make a little bit of a joke or downplay it a little bit, or we're nervous about it. We kind of don't even admit it. So first of all, I'm proud of you for admitting it, Mara. That's step one. You told the truth. Step two, the things you need to do, you can figure out because you're a student, you're a beginner, you love this, you're smart, and there's Google and there's YouTube, and that's going to give you the steps. And those are the things that you need to visualize. So when you sit down and you start to visualize and mentally rehearse, remember, you're an Olympic athlete, you're a winner. We're using neuroscience here. We're going to decode all those fears and all those bullshit excuses, and we're going to re-encode some confidence, and we're going to see you doing it. You might experience not being able to picture yourself in the visualization. This is super common. So here's what you're going to use. You're going to use the power of objectivity. That's it. What does that mean? That means if you can't picture yourself doing the work, pick somebody that you admire who you could visualize doing the work. And there's a catch here. So for example, you could pick me. You could pick an interior designer that you absolutely love. There's so many of them online that you could pick from, that you can follow on Instagram, and you can imagine them in there taking the certifications, asking their friends if they could stage their apartment for an Instagram photo shoot, networking with realtors, trying to get a job in a design firm, or heck, in an amazing furniture retail location. So you start to kind of build up the acumen. There's all kinds of things you can do. If you can't picture yourself doing those small steps, put in me or somebody that you deeply admire who's already in the interior design business. Your mind will allow you, through the power of objectivity, to imagine someone else. Now, here's the catch. Here's the catch, because remember, I'm the O-line. I'm your offensive lineman. I'm clearing the path, so I'm not doing this on my own. I'm doing this, and I'm in your visualization so you can score with the ball. So at some point in that visualization, let's just say you get a job at one of your favorite retail stores that sells furniture and is in the design business. And let's just say you put me in there and I'm the one that's managing the store. At some point in that visualization, I want you to visualize me turning around and extending my hand and saying, "Come on, Maura, it's your turn. Come here and help me." And let me invite you to join my side in your visualization. Visualize us doing the work together. It's a super awesome hack. And using the power of objectivity, we can work around that blind spot in your brain until you're ready to fire Mel Robbins from that job. And now you can start visualizing yourself doing all the steps you're scared to take now. Super cool. Now let's get to step 4, because this is probably the most important part of manifesting according to neuroscience. And I think absolutely everybody forgets to tell you this part. Let's play Cynthia's question.
Hi, my name is Cynthia. I'm from Temecula, California. My question was to Mel, how do you go about manifesting without feeling like a sense of selfishness? I was raised in a very strict Catholic household. And when you asked for things, it was kind of like you had to do something in return. So I feel like when I'm asking the universe or God, whatever you believe in, for my things that I'm manifesting, I feel like I owe somebody something or something's going to get taken away. So it makes me a little nervous to ask or manifest.
Cynthia, I got to tell you, you're right. You're right. When you manifest, it's not selfish at all, by the way. It's an act of self-love when you train your mind to help you get what you want. But when you manifest, you are going to owe somebody something. And you know what you owe them? Fucking work. That's right. You have to do the thing you're visualizing. When you sit there and you intentionally, mentally rehearse the steps you need to take, there is something that you owe the universe and you owe yourself, and that is to take the action. You're not just going to sit there and train. At some point, that Olympic athlete has to do the race. At some point, you've got to make the cold call. At some point, you got to quit the job or pack the U-Haul trailer or get off your ass and do the training run at 5 a.m. So you better believe there is going to be something that is asked of you in return. And that's where the magic comes in. Because the magic is in your actions, and manifesting according to neuroscience just gets your own fears and people's judgments and your childhood wiring out of the way so that you can take those actions. True science-backed manifestation. It's not as sexy as The Secret makes it seem, and it's actually not as complicated as a huge PhD study makes it seem. You just have to do it. That's it. You have to take the actions. You do owe the universe and yourself something. You owe yourself the actions, the effort, the work that's required. That's what your dreams demand. I talk about this all the time. You know, we all want to believe that somehow you're going to close your eyes and imagine what you want and it's going to magically happen. I'm sorry, that may happen on TikTok or in Disney, but that is not how the real world works. The way that you are going to make something a reality is you are going to declare that you want it, and then you are going to tediously, annoyingly, wake up every single day and push yourself to lay one brick in a path with one action every day. It's not going to be easy, but day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, action by action, as you visualize yourself taking the steps, and then you actually push yourself to do the steps, you will wake up and realize you have paved a brick path to your dreams. And you are now, 10 years later, 5 years later, sitting on the porch of your ocean house. You are crossing the finish line of the New York City Marathon. You are making the final turn in that giant slalom race. That is how this works. So you do owe something. You got to put your skin in the game and your ass on the line. And you do that by waking up every day and taking one of those small steps forward that you visualized and practiced and rehearsed by manifesting properly according to neuroscience. Now let me say the final mistake. You ready for the final mistake? This is mistake number 4. You get impatient. I cannot tell you how many people literally give up on their dreams and they are one audition away from making it. Or how many people stop working on their business and they were 1 hour away from the breakthrough that they needed in the financial model. Or you give up on that novel or cookbook you wanted to write because you got frustrated by the creative process. You make the mistake of thinking just because this is getting hard or it's boring or it's tedious, it's not working. Here's the thing I need you to understand. When it comes to achieving your goals and your dreams, there is no timeline involved. You have to give up the when, and you got to stay focused on the why and the how. And you now know the how. The how is using neuroscience to remove the resistance in your mind and your nervous system and your body, and then pushing yourself to do the work, because manifesting is not magically making something appear. Manifesting is preparing your mind, body, and spirit to do the work to make it a reality. Overnight success does not exist, period. Yes, there are a lot of people that are gotten lucky. Yes, privilege is real. Bias is a fact. And it is really easy to get jealous. But what you aren't seeing when you focus on the end result is the years and years and years that went into this moment. Like, a lot of people are looking at me right now and they're like, holy cow, this is one of the most successful podcast launches in history. How the hell did that happen overnight? It didn't. This has been in the works for 10 years. I have been chipping away at it, doing the work behind the scenes before I even launched this thing. You have to ask yourself, I think, when it comes to the big stuff, are you willing to work 10 years for it? Are you willing to work 10 years for that beach house? Are you willing to work 10 years for that $1 million in the bank? Are you willing to work 10 years to get that PhD, to heal your trauma, to be happy? Because that's how long it might take. And if we're being really honest here, if it's a really big thing, it could take even longer, and that's okay. Because you know what? There's nothing more fulfilling in life than chipping away at your dreams and your goals. That's what gives your life meaning. Achieving your goals doesn't give your life meaning. Working on them, working towards something bigger than where you're at right now, that is where the real secret sauce is. Like, if you want to be successful in business, you got to get ready to make 100 hours of cold calls about your product or about the thing you're selling before you get one person that doesn't hang up on you. I'm not even talking about a yes. And that's where visualization comes in. You got to visualize the no's. If you want to be a writer, how about getting ready to write for 5 years? 5 years of drafts. 5 years of what Anne Lamott calls your shitty first draft. Days and days and days of sitting down every single day, because this is what a writer does. They sit down and they write no matter what. Days where you sit there and you stare at a blank piece of paper. Visualize that. And visualize yourself keep going. Visualize publishers saying no and no and no. And then finally, somebody says yes, or you self-publish. See, the time and the effort that you have to put in, it's not glamorous, everybody. It's not easy. And there are going to be times that you're going to feel like giving up. And this is what separates the people who achieve their goals from the people who don't, in my opinion. It's this quitting day. It's this moment where you throw in the towel. If you can go one more day, you can make it happen, because then you can go another. See, the benefit of waking up every day and using manifesting according to neuroscience to visualize yourself continuing to go forward is that when the going gets tough, you will have trained your brain and your nervous system that you're the kind of person that keeps going. And when your body and your brain knows that about you, when the going gets tough, you will keep going. So please, once you're honest with yourself about what you want, put in the time. Bring a lot of patience. And I promise, if you're willing to put in the work and the effort and you're willing to continue to train your mind to believe that, yes, in fact, you are going to cross that finish line. You are going to have that $1 million in the bank. You are going to have the happiness and the love and the health that you deserve. You're going to have the family you've always dreamt of. You will eventually make it happen. I believe that. Honestly, I just love this shit because manifesting according to neuroscience is one of my superpowers. If I'm not talking, I'm probably manifesting something that I want. I currently do not have a beach house. And let me tell you, I have 2 or 3 particular homes in mind that are currently occupied. I have all kinds of manifesting according to neuroscience going on. I'm in no hurry. I know this takes time. I keep seeing myself chipping away at it. I see the letter I'm going to write and I'm going to stick it in the note box. I see myself working to make the money. I also have done this with this podcast, you guys. This was 2 years in the making before we recorded our first episode. You know what I was doing? I was busy manifesting all the hard and tedious stuff that would lead me here and actually doing it. Another thing I'm manifesting, we are getting this incredible studio space in Boston. And so I keep having these visions of making the drive down from Southern Vermont. I have this vision of one of our team members, Charlotte, standing out front of the building with a clipboard. And she has this little, like, kind of one of those headset walkie-talkie things on. And she's greeting this SUV that comes up. I am upstairs having stress diarrhea because the Dalai Lama is stepping out of the SUV and is coming up to be on the Mel Robbins podcast. And I am managing through my stomach ache as Charlotte is walking the Dalai Lama through our lobby and up the elevator to our brand new, insanely cool. This is what I do, everybody, because it's a superpower. I am training my mind to help me make my big dreams and visions a reality. I'm even doing this for our daughters. I'm manifesting what it looks like for our daughter I want her to do it next fall. I'm visualizing her halfway around the world and working her way around the world. I'm visualizing our other daughter spending late nights in a session, writing her music. I can feel what it's going to feel like when she calls crying and saying that something happened. And so I'm doing this for me. I do it for you. I do it for the people that I love. This stuff is awesome because in some way, when you really get good at this, it is true what the research at UCLA says. You do trick your own brain. When we started this podcast, finally, after years of thinking about it and 2 years of properly manifesting according to neuroscience, I was so rehearsed. I had a Madgeread, or whatever the hell the word is that the Olympians used, that when I stepped in to record our first episode, it felt like I had been doing this for 10 years. Because in my mind, I've been preparing that long. That's how cool this is.
So let's talk about manifesting. Have you always believed in manifesting?
So looking back, I actually think I did it as a kid naturally. And it's so chicken and egg for me whether I got drawn to neuroscience and manifestation because that was innate in me from a child, or whether I now live my life in that way because I've done so much research on it. I honestly don't know the answer to that. The more I do the research, the more I consciously bring these things into my life. I look back and think, that's what I was like as a kid. That's what I was interested in as a kid. But I would say that once I studied the sciences in high school and then went to medical school, it works slightly differently in the UK, and did my PhD in neuroscience. And certainly by the time I got my faculty position at MIT, I was a complete skeptic about manifestation. Those two things could not exist in the same world as far as I was concerned. And that's partly down to how I had to live my life as a child, because my parents were first-generation immigrants from India to the UK. And I went to school in London and I just wanted to be like all my friends and do the same things as them. But I would come home, my mother would be in a headstand and there would be incense in the house. And, there was meditation and chanting and things like that. So I thought, okay, that happens at home. This happens at school. And I learned very well to separate those things. So then I became a medical doctor, specializing in psychiatry. And, you were diagnosing people with magical thinking and delusions and hallucinations. So you couldn't really say, oh, but I believe in manifestation, So again, I had to keep those things really separate. And it wasn't really until I started doing my research to write the source that I realized how together these things could be.
Was there a moment where you remember going, oh my gosh, this is real?
Yeah, there are a few, because I think these things sort of build up, don't they? So I was, in 2017, I was the world's first neuroscientist in residence at a 5-star hotel in London. So I was already doing quirky things with my career. And because it was unusual, there was a lot of press, and I was approached by Penguin Random House to write a book. And they said, we've had really amazing books on, one on meditation, one on diet, one on sleep, one on exercise. And we think as a neuroscientist, you could bring all of those together. And without thinking, I said, I could do that, but I've got an idea about the cognitive science behind manifestation and vision boards. And they just said yes straight away. So I think their response made me think that could be a thing, but I wasn't convinced myself. So before I started writing, I went on a summer vacation with my laptop, which is unusual for me. And I just started looking into the laws of attraction and trying to figure out, is there cognitive science that can explain these things?
And for somebody listening who does not know what the law of attraction or manifestation is, could you give us your definition?
Mm-hmm. They're basically all about the fact that if there's something that you really want in life, then if you think positively about it, or you believe in certain vibrations of attraction in the universe, then you can bring that thing into your life. And manifestation is bringing into reality something that you want. But until I started looking into the cognitive science behind it, all the explanations so far had been to do with quantum physics. And for me, as an empirical scientist, that wasn't enough for me to believe in those things. And equally, I felt very disempowered by the fact that it was happening because of something outside of me. I wanted to feel like it was happening because of my brain power and that I had some autonomy over it.
And do you believe, based on the research that you've done, that you attract things into your life because of your brain power?
I believe it 100%. When the book came out, people that I knew personally who were not scientists at all said, I've always been interested in this, but I've never actually acted upon it because I couldn't understand how it worked. But now that you've explained the science, I'm actually doing the steps that, I've heard of before actually, but that you've repeated in your book. So the writing process did bring it together for me quite a lot, but it was actually the response from other people. So it started with people I knew, and then it started on social media, just being thousands of people that I will probably never meet in my life saying, because you've put the science to it, it's completely changed my view of these topics.
So what are the steps to manifesting based on the research so you attract what you want in life?
So it starts with abundance. Now, in the brain, we have the strongest gearing that we have in our brain is called loss aversion or loss avoidance. And that was the survival mechanism from when we lived in the cave, which was that if you saw, a juicy apple on a tree and you really wanted it, but you ignored the fact that there was a saber-toothed tiger standing next to you, you would die. So we had to want to avoid loss more than we wanted to get reward.
So you've got to avoid the tiger more than wanting the apple.
Exactly.
And so we're wired toward, as you mentioned earlier, survival.
Absolutely.
And through manifesting, you're about to teach us how to rewire our brain and train it toward abundance.
Yeah,
and thriving.
So I'm not going to completely wire it the other way because we still need to be safe.
Yes.
Even in the modern world where the threats aren't so much physical predators, there are psychological threats to our safety like job loss, relationship loss, etc. But it doesn't serve us to be that strongly geared to loss avoidance. So what we want to do is balance that out a bit more, or in a safe situation, understand that we absolutely can take healthy risks and, believe that there's enough for everyone and not kind of live from that scarcity mindset. So that's the first piece. The second piece is magnetic desire, which we've already somewhat discussed. But once you're feeling abundant, Then if you can be really aligned in your head, your heart, and your gut about what it is that you want, then that desire, that motivation will keep you going and, help you get the things that you want that you might have given up on. So there is an element of patience required because this process of neuroplasticity involves neurons wiring together to form new strong pathways that are stronger than the pathways that you had before. And so that means that it feels like a lot of hard work is going on. Psychological work is physical work going on in the, pathways in your brain, but that nothing's changing in the real world. And there's a real tipping point where there's enough neurons in a pathway that certain new habits and behaviors or, being patient becomes easier. And it kind of feels like nothing. And then suddenly, things are happening, things are changing. I'm getting the things that I want. So if you put those three behind manifestation, then that is about priming your brain to notice and grasp opportunities in the real world that can bring you closer to the things that you want. It's exactly the same process as if you buy a new car, you suddenly notice that car all over, it's the same. So it's a brain priming process.
Oh, well, that makes sense. It's why you suddenly see Jeeps everywhere when you are looking at buying a Jeep. Can you explain the kind of neuroscientific, I don't even know what the right word is. What is the scientific explanation for why you see cars when you're interested in buying a car, or how the new neural pathways are changing your brain in real time? What is actually happening when you tap into magnetic desire?
So basically, we're overloaded with information constantly. And the brain has a natural filtering mechanism called selective filtering. And this relates back to what I was saying about if you leave your brain to its job of just, making sure you survive, it will filter out all those other things that you actually really want, but they're not essential to your survival. So that's why you have to make a list or make the vision board or, remind yourself every day of what it is that you truly, magnetically desire, to put that to the top of the list for your brain. Because after selective filtering, it does selective attention. And that is noticing the red car or the Tesla or whatever it is that, you're noticing. So once you've filtered out the things that you don't want to notice, then you narrow it down to the things that you do want to notice. And then the third part is called value tagging, which is the brain actually tags those things in order of importance. And it does that in two lists. So it does it in a logical list and it does it in an emotional list. And that's where the magnetic desire is important. That's where you say, no brain, I don't want it in that logical order. I want it in this order. This is what is really important to me. This is what makes me feel alive. This is what makes me understand that I have a purpose for my life. And it's not just put food on the table, stay in your job, stay in your relationship. It's so much more than that. So a classic example is, I really want to find a partner and settle down and get pregnant.
Yes. How could you go through the steps of manifestation to help you achieve that?
I would explain the process of manifestation that's underpinned by neuroplasticity, which is a 4-step process. Raise your awareness, focus your attention, do deliberate practice, and hold yourself accountable. And it starts with raised awareness. I always say that's 50% of the battle, because sometimes we don't really know why we're not doing the things we know we should be doing, or why we're self-sabotaging those behaviors. But instead of taking the supplements that would set my body up for good fertility, I'm going out partying because that's the way I think I'll meet a new partner. So the awareness piece comes very much from journaling, or not so much speaking with friends sometimes, because if they're on, in the same place, or everyone has an agenda for, your single friends might want you to stay single, that kind of thing. But, maybe talking to a therapist or a coach, or doing some proper soul searching and trying to understand why you're not doing the things that you could be doing, why some of the things that, you're doing really easily, why are they so easy? How do they fit into your lifestyle so well? And really what it is that you actually want. Do you actually want to settle down and have a family? Or fine, if you actually want to be out partying, fine, just say that and do it, and be aligned, and don't kind of do the thing that you want, but pretend that you want something else. So it's all about that.
So that's step one. So step one, and let's just stay with your example. Somebody who is single, who really wants to meet a life partner and be in a committed relationship and start a family. That the first step is for you to take the time to get very clear with yourself about what you want and why.
And a wonderful exercise for that is to place your hands on your forehead.
Okay.
And ask yourself logically, is this what I really want and why? Okay. And then write that down. And then take 5 deep breaths and put your hands on your heart and ask yourself emotionally, why do I really want this? And then write down the answers. Another 5 deep breaths and then hands on your belly. Intuitively, do I really want this? And again, write the answers down. And, if they're all aligned, happy days. If they're not, we might have a little bit of rethinking to do. When I've done this with clients, one of the things that's come up is, I really, really want a baby, but actually I don't really need a partner to get there. So, that could change I need to meet someone and be in a loving relationship and have a baby. Could just be actually what I've always really wanted as a child. I'm getting to a certain age where waiting to have a partner be part of that might mean that I don't end up with what I really want.
Got it.
So, that's the most important step.
Okay, so let's say you've gone through step one and your mind, your heart, and your kind of gut, your soul, your intuition is all aligned. Yes, I want this.
The second step is focused attention. So that is at least a month of just noticing what you're doing, what you're not doing in regards to moving in that direction.
What are you noticing?
Depending on what your goal is, it might be yourself, it might be your interaction with others, it might be feedback from others, but it's kind of a data collection period, because what won't work very well in manifestation underpinned by neuroplasticity is just jumping into doing without being first.
Okay.
So, raising that awareness might have brought up things that you've never consciously known in the past. So you can't suddenly then say, okay, I'm like on all the dating apps. You need to look, sit back and see, what is it? Are there patterns of behavior that I'm doing that are leading to a bad result? Is there something that's holding me back from taking the first step that I really need to take? So taking, and longer than a month if you need, to get to the point where you feel like I have enough data about myself that when I act now, I'll be able to give myself really good feedback. So the third part is deliberate practice, and that is doing the things that you need to do to bring the goal into your life. So whether that's taking certain supplements, whether that's going to sleep earlier than you usually do, whether it's being more socially active than you used to be, and then practicing. And that's an experimental phase. You might still make mistakes in that phase, but course correcting as you go on, because at this third stage, this is where people could give up.
Yes.
And so the fourth part isn't really a stage. It's something like a theme or an umbrella over all of this, which is accountability. So how are you going to hold yourself accountable that you will actually see this through? Now, the easiest way to do that is with an external party like a coach or a therapist. But ways to do that yourself are by recording it in your journal and reading back over your journal and, continually reinforcing why I did this, why I didn't do it, what happened when it went wrong. I use an app called Habit Share, because what I learned for myself, and this won't be for everyone, but it's quite a good one for a lot of people, is that it's easier to build up micro habits than to start the year or, your birthday or whatever it is with one big, this year I'm going to meet the person that I'm going to get married to. So I set out 12 micro habits at the beginning of the year, and I pick 3 to focus on for the first quarter of the year.
Okay.
And I track them on this app until they become so habitual that I don't need them on the app anymore. And then I move to the next 3. When I've done that, instead of setting big goals at the start of the year, I've come to the end of the year and found that I have 10 habits that I'm no longer even conscious of that I'm doing all the time that are leading me towards that bigger goal or those bigger goals that I really want.
Why are there only 10 if you start with 12?
Well, they don't all stick. I find that kind of along the way, I just didn't actually make 1 or 2 of them into a habit. It's still a bit of a struggle. And I either decide that I'm going to drop it or I'll carry it on into next year.
How would you recommend you kind of like make micro habits, or where would you start? Because I know we're going to get flooded with questions about this.
So I'm going to talk really directly to you like I would as if you were my client.
Great.
Which is that the habit that you're working on is not the other person and the relationship, it's yourself. So if the goal is a partnership with someone else, the habits are all around your self-worth, your deservingness, what you have to offer in a relationship, what boundaries you will have about somebody treating you in a certain way. And I'm sure a lot more, but those are the first ones, that come to mind. So, for example, a lot of people cast a list of what they want in a partner. And there's two things around that. One is make a list of what you have to offer in a relationship, compare it to the list of what you want in a partner, and where all the gaps are, make those your micro habits.
Okay, we got to stop right here and highlight, because we've all been in that situation where we have a friend and we keep seeing this person that we love dating people that we do not believe are up to their level.
Yeah.
And you do make the lists of what you want in somebody else. I've never made a list of what I have to offer.
No, neither had I till someone told me about that.
And it doesn't even occur to me that I would make a list about what I have to offer.
Yeah.
How does just making the list of what you have to offer change the way you view yourself?
Mm-hmm. So there's two things. One is it might highlight gaps between what you think, what you want. But if you're not there, why would that person want you? So if you've got self-work to do, let's start with that. That's why I said I will speak to you really directly like I would to a client, which is like we need to start here if you want to get there. The other one is that the focus can be so outward and external that you actually are, not always aware of how much you have to offer. And that's why when, unfortunately, in this day and age, the sort of behaviors that I'm hearing about on the dating apps, you could succumb to those. But if you have a very strong idea of what you have to offer, you're more likely to say no to bad behavior, right?
Yes, it's true. I just think about this from my own life, that in periods of my life where I was in distress or disassociated or in peak toxic Mel mode in the past, college and law school come to mind, I had no clue what I had to offer, which is why I kept finding myself engaged in toxic behavior patterns and with people that I was perpetuating them with. And so it makes a lot of sense that if you're not even aware of what your value is, how could you possibly attract something that's of a higher value?
Or equal value.
Or equal value.
One of the things you speak about, Mel, is the fact that we love our friends and family and children and pets more than we, show that same care to ourselves. And so, if a habit that you have with your partner is writing them a little post-it note of 10 things I love about you, well, obviously, if you're in partnership and they're doing that back to you, that's great. But if you're single, write down 10 things that you love about yourself, or say to a friend, I'm going to send you a list of 10 things I love about you. Could you please send me a list so I can see how I'm viewed, by another person that I know cares for me? So obviously there are affirmations, but you can also bring your tribe into, saying, don't forget, this is what you have to offer. This is how lucky someone's going to be to get you. And I don't think we do that enough either.
I'm just having to think about this because it's kind of sad that we don't do this. And how common is it that you're working with somebody in your practice and you ask them to make the list of 10 things and they can't do it?
I feel like we all have some kind of like angel inside us. And if you start, you'll be surprised that things will come out. And that is such a good feeling. And they can be really tiny things. And they can be physical attributes, or they can be like your kindness and your creativity, but they can also be like your vulnerability, or, the fact that you maybe like didn't used to be good at asking for help, but that's something that you've learned to do. There's so many things it can be. So yeah, I would love to think that people would go and do it. And I would love to think that people would be pleasantly surprised. And if not, then reach out to your tribe, because I'm sure, you'll get inundated with things that people could say about you.
So whether you're going to use manifesting to look for a job or look for a committed partnership or to, I guess I shouldn't even say look for, whether you're going to use manifesting to land a job or to land funding or to fall in love and be in a committed partnership or to achieve a health goal. Step one is the self-awareness that comes from you doing the work to get very clear about what you want. And you gave us that beautiful meditation of going from your head to your heart to your gut and asking yourself if you really want this. And you say we should saturate ourselves in the self-awareness of it, right? By journaling and talking to a therapist or a coach or a friend that you trust about it. And then the second one was noticing yourself. Are you acting consistently? What is happening? What's appearing around you? The third one is take actions that are consistent with somebody who is landing their dream job or who is attracting a committed relationship or becoming a parent. And then the fourth is patience. Did I get it?
The fourth is accountability.
Accountability. Yeah. That's right. I don't want that one. That's why I forgot it. I want it to just happen like magic. So accountability meaning what?
Accountability meaning that you don't give up, that you are still doing the consistent behaviors that you need to bring the thing that you want into your life. And that either, you find a way of doing that yourself with technology or your journaling or an external party, that they'll be asking you in a month's time, did you go on the number of dates that you said you would, or did you send your resume out, to as many places as you said you would? And in my work, I always say, if not, why not? If you didn't, there's a learning opportunity there. But if you did, great. What else can we do in the next month kind of thing?
I love this topic so much. Dr. Tara, I could just keep on going on and on and on, but I want to take a quick pause, hear a word from our sponsors. We have so much more to cover. Don't you dare go anywhere, because when we come back, we're digging deeper into manifestation. And of course, you're going to learn the mistake that you're making. It has to do with vision boards and using glue. All of that and so much more coming up when we return. Stay with us. Hey, it's your friend Mel, and I've been thinking it's time that you and I take our relationship to the next level, that we get off social media and do something a little bit more serious together. I have this gift that I've been wanting to get you, maybe a little forward, but whatever, I'm going to shoot my shot. I have created a brand new free 2-part training called Make It Happen, just for you. It is a video training. It's got 2 different lectures in it. It is so freaking cool. I made this for you because I want you to stop wasting so much time on social media. I want you to stop thinking about what you want to do, and I want to support you in taking action and making something amazing happen. The next 6 months of your life could be extraordinary, but it's not going to happen by accident. It'll happen because you decide to make it happen. And because I want to take our relationship to the next level, I thought I'd invite you to jump in this training. Just go to melrobbins.com/makeithappen to get this free gift from me. And let's take our relationship and your life to the next level. Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins. I'm thrilled that you're here today. We're learning all about the science of manifestation and intuition and how to wire your brain to thrive and be more successful with neuroscientist Dr. Tara Swart-Bieber. So what are the 3 ways that this changes your brain, or you can change your brain?
So the 3 mechanisms for neuroplasticity are myelination, synaptic connection, and neurogenesis. Now, myelination, people who do sort of repeated weight training will be quite familiar with that. Myelin is a fatty substance that coats some neural pathways, making them fast-conducting pathways. And there's a reason that we have fast-conducting pathways and slow-conducting pathways. So, for instance, if there was a fire on the table here between us and you put your hand into the fire, your reflex to physically snatch your hand out of the fire is a fast pathway for obvious reasons, so you don't burn. But your pain pathways are slow pathways, because if you became so incapacitated by the pain of the fire that you couldn't move, you wouldn't survive.
Oh.
And that works for many different types of pathways as well. So, but to make a pathway more efficient, we want it to be myelinated. So if we're working on a manifestation, obviously we want the pathways for the behavior that will lead us to that goal to be more efficient. So just basically repetitive practice leads to more myelination of pathways.
Okay.
So that's relatively easy to do. The middle one in terms of difficulty is synaptic connection. So that's where neurons that we already have in our brain, but that aren't necessarily connected to each other. At the end of every neuron, there's a bulb called a synapse. And neurons communicate with each other because chemicals flow in the gap between those bulbs and form new pathways. So making new synaptic connections is a step up in terms of difficulty. My favorite analogy for this is learning a language. So I think when we talk about manifestation or other, psychological behaviors, it feels very intangible. But the process is exactly the same as learning a language. So you go from not being able to speak this language at all to picking up the basics, to becoming semi-fluent, to potentially becoming, completely fluent in a language. And everything that we have spoken about so far, it's exactly the same process in the brain. So the myelination is when you start listening and you pick up, the alphabet or a basic, very basic vocabulary like my name is. And then the synaptic connection is when you can say some sentences that's maybe enough for you to travel to that country on vacation and, at least make an effort.
Yep.
And then the hardest one in the adult brain is neurogenesis. And that's because genesis means growth. So this is growth of baby nerve cells into fully formed nerve cells that then have to make synaptic connection with other nerve cells. And potentially those pathways get myelinated. So you can see how it's a building up process. Yeah.
Yes. And you had said magnetic energy.
Magnetic desire.
Magnetic desire is one of the fastest ways to change the brain, or it's a required way. Talk to me about how that stimulates one of these processes happening.
Yeah. Okay, let me put it like this. If you and I both wanted to learn Spanish.
Yes.
And you wanted to learn it because you were planning a vacation to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to learn it because I had a Spanish boyfriend. Who do you think's likely to learn it more or better?
You.
Yeah. Magnetic desire. A real, deep reason for wanting to be able to speak that language.
What I love about this example is that I now understand why manifestation works.
Good.
So magnetic desire, which you are helping us tap into by asking ourselves, by putting our hands on our head and our heart and our gut, what do I really want?
Mm-hmm.
You're tapping into the deep-seated magnetic desire behind any change that you want.
Mm-hmm.
With that, you are fueling the change in your brain to help you both see more opportunities around you and also to help you stay motivated to do the actions.
Yeah.
So it's like training for your brain to be doing the work to make something happen in the future and to help you do it.
All of that, and I would just add, even when you feel like giving up, even when it feels like it's not going to happen. That's the difference between someone that will manifest and someone that will continually take it this far but never actually manifest.
Is there a trick that you teach people that are very negative or resigned or have a difficult background where they just have a very hard time believing things are going to work out? Is there something that you would suggest to somebody who's like, well, that's never going to work for me. I've tried that. That your resignation stands in your way of the patience?
Yeah, I actually always struggled with that because I felt like it was such a privilege and a luxury to be manifesting in your life. The first time I was challenged on that, it was when I had my friend Chanel Haynes on season 1 of my podcast. She played Tina Turner in London's West End. I asked her the same question, and she said, manifestation isn't a luxury, it's an essential. And, she came from parts of New Orleans that people would be scared to go to, and she built herself up through manifestation to having the career that she had and being the oldest person that ever played Tina Turner in London. So I think finding success stories like that, there's another piece of science that says if you are trying to achieve something that you've never achieved before, find an example of a person that you resonate with who's achieved the thing that you're trying to achieve. So, anything from playing Tina Turner in the West End all the way down to where you were saying somebody who's got a lot of adversity, who's had difficulty in their life, breaking out of that. Like there are examples of that in the world.
Of course.
And interestingly, because you've already mentioned this, the third part of that is changing your negative self-talk.
How do you do that when that is part of the wiring in your brain?
You cannot undo wiring that's already in the brain. Before we understood about neuroplasticity, say that once your brain was in adulthood and certain pathways were set up as they were, like things about low self-esteem or, things never working out for you, that it was impossible to change it because it's impossible to change your height once you've stopped growing, right? But we know that's not true in the brain anymore. So we know that there's an opportunity for rewiring, but it's not through undoing wiring that's already in the brain. It's through overwriting it, which means repeating a new thought or behavior so many times with such emotional intensity that it becomes a more energy efficient pathway for your brain than the one that you've had until now.
How do you do that?
So one of the ways of doing it is through positive affirmations. So it can't just be a random one that you make up.
Okay.
So the way that I help people to find their affirmation is if you have a recurring negative thought, it's not your thought that is wired into your neural pathways. It's the belief that underlies that thought.
Can you give us an example?
That's never going to happen for me. That's a classic
Yes.
one. Things like that don't happen to people like me. So, and the answer to this will be different for different people. It could be different for you and I and, anyone who's listening. But you need to, either through therapy or, by sitting down and really meditating on it, say, what is the evidence that things like this do not happen to people like me? And keep asking yourself that question until you come up with the answer. And if the answer is because I'm a woman, or because I come from a lower socioeconomic background, or because I'm a person of colour, or because it's never happened to anyone in my family before. Let's say going to college. No one in my family's ever been to college before. So what are the chances that I'm going to go? So once you've understood that it's because it's never happened to anyone in my family, then what you need to do is create a mantra or an affirmation that says, I could be the first. So that's just one that came into my mind, but into my heart, actually, I really felt it there. But, it'll be very different for different people. That emotional intensity is important. And that's why I can't give the answer to you, because it has to be your answer.
When you said could, I deeply felt that because for me, it allowed the possibility that it might not. But there was something about the possibility of I could be the first to that opens the door to then wanting to try.
Or try it. Yeah.
Yes.
Wanting to try and then trying. Yeah.
And then if you keep saying something that has that magnetic desire, that's how you start to what did you call it? Reprogram?
Rewire or just, overwrite.
Overwrite.
The wiring, yeah.
I love this affirmation. I could be the first because it makes me believe that it's possible because of course it's possible. Of course it's possible. And I'll just share quickly, I delayed starting this podcast for so long because I just felt like there were already so many out there. If I had had this affirmation, but I could be the first, or I could be successful, even though there's already all these podcasts. If I had had that, I probably would have started this sooner. So what do you do once you create this affirmation for yourself? And let's just run with this one. I could be, and then fill in the blank. What's the steps?
I have one for you that
Tell
just
me.
really came up in my mind that you could have had, which was I could create a unique niche. Because even though there were so many out there, I think your affirmation would have been, I could create something that's not out there yet. I think for a woman, you're just such an icon in this space. So anyway, regardless of what it is,
I love that because I also do think my husband right now is finishing a master's and working on his first book. And what he battles every day is this has already been written. This has already been written. And so many of you listening have something that you want to do. And you're like, but there's already a bakery.
Yeah.
But there's so many real estate agents.
Yeah.
But there's YouTube. There's this, that if you start to take this one, I could do something unique. I could fill a gap.
Yeah.
I could do something different. I love this. So what do we do once we have something that feels like, oh yeah, that's it. I could be.
So remember, we based this on an underlying belief that, sort of to do with sort of lack of deservingness. Every time you have the thought that belief underlies, so I shouldn't bother applying for that job, or that's not going to happen for me, or that's already been done. Every time you have a thought like that, you replace it with your affirmation.
And you just say it to yourself?
You can say it in your head, you can say it out loud, you can write it out and have it on your bathroom mirror. The one time I remember it got I was glad I'd been practicing it, was someone openly verbally challenged me. And I actually burst into tears, but then I said, I think I can.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I want that for everybody. I want you listening to us to believe that you could be the first whatever, or that you could do whatever. And so I think it is really important that you tap into and find the right sentence that kind of has that door open for you when you say it.
So for season 2 of my podcast, Reinvent Yourself with Dr. Tara, I've actually focused on the new science of ancient wisdom.
Yes.
So what's interesting to me about this one is that Buddhists have known forever, replace every negative thought with a positive thought. That is part of Buddhism. Now, fast forward tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, neuroscience says you can overwrite a negative, thought or belief with a positive affirmation. I mean, hello.
As long as you have magnetic desire attached to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that is really important here, that there is this charge in the feeling around it that is really important for you to do the work to figure out for yourself. So let me draw a distinction between the importance of dreaming and the power of manifesting. So dreaming in terms of not what you're doing at night, but dreaming and giving yourself permission to desire things, to have incredible, magical things occur in your life. Giving yourself permission to let your mind, body, and spirit wander into the future and to imagine a life that really lights you up. That's so important because those dreams are deeply connected to your soul. Like you won't dream about something that's not meant for you. I'm not dreaming right now about a penthouse apartment in New York City. I don't want to live there right now. So that's not going to come to me. But, when you allow yourself and your mind and spirit to wander forward and just allow yourself and give yourself permission to imagine, what's amazing is you plant a beacon out into the future. And that beacon, whether it's a beach house or it's a loving relationship or it's healing past trauma or it's launching your dream business or it's just waking up and being happier and healthier and surrounded by all these amazing people, whatever that dream is, you got to allow yourself to dream it because it acts as a mechanism that starts to pull you toward it. And it will pull you through your fear. It will create tension in your life because it's going to make you start to wake up and pay attention to it. That's where a vision board comes in. And a vision board, most of us make a vision board and we put up the beach house or the Range Rover or the amazing log cabin or the trip to Disney World or the dream business that we want, whatever it is the things are that we want, the loving relationship. But then this is where we make the biggest mistake because manifesting isn't the dream. Manifesting is the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. Manifesting is the bricks that form the pathway that connect you there. And most of us have been led to believe that we need to sit quietly and with vibrational force feel ourselves sitting on the deck of that beach house and how it's going to feel when the wind is in our hair. And what happens when you do it that way is that you socialize your mind and body to the end. When the fact is, it's going to be a bazillion little irritating steps that get you there. And we skip that part.
So I love this. I just want to underscore this because when we were doing the Everything is Figure Outable book tour and I did this event and I had people close their eyes and visualize themselves figuring it out, whatever their dream was, we actually did that. I was like, I want you to see yourself taking those steps. And I loved how you broke this down in the book. I thought it was so great because yeah, it's one thing to go, yay, we crossed the finish line and there's the house or the relationship or the health or the trip or whatever.
Right.
But to rehearse in your mind's eye, emotionally, visually, intellectually, seeing yourself doing the steps. So if it's writing a book, sitting at your table and maybe sweating a little because you don't think you're a very good writer, but showing up anyway, or getting up when the alarm goes off and putting your sneakers on, and all of those different little micro actions. Even if it's a healthy relationship, for me, there's been times where if what I want to shift and change is a reaction that I've had to something, seeing myself with the same situation that could trigger me in the past and visualizing myself behaving differently, feeling differently, watching it. Those are the steps that help me create that shift where it actually happens. So I just wanted to praise you, acknowledge you, and underscore how awesome this is because your mind is so powerful. Our brains are so incredibly miraculous, but we're not given the instruction kits on how to use them.
Yes, exactly. So, you want to launch a business, visualize yourself telling your friends you can't come out tonight because you're going to work on something. Visualize yourself hitting that post and then feeling the fear that people are going to judge you when you start posting about something different than your kids or your dream vacations and you start posting about your business. Visualize yourself spending a Saturday while the kids are playing soccer working on something. Visualize yourself hearing no and feeling discouraged and then picking up the phone and making the next phone call. There's something called the Zeigarnik effect in your brain. It's like a little to-do list, a checklist that your brain keeps intact in your mind. And your brain, once you start to socialize your mind, body, and spirit to all these little irritating steps, like you want to run a marathon, don't visualize the finish. Visualize yourself at mile 11 on a training run and it starts to rain and your earbud batteries die and you keep going.
Yes.
When you do that, what you're doing is you're smoothing out your resistance to all this work that it's going to require to make this stuff happen. Because you are capable. You can figure it out. And you can use simple tools backed by science to lower the resistance in your body and mind to actually doing the things that you've never done before. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.